Up next, we have Louise Shorten. She's talking about how to hackathon, tips for successfully running a hackathon. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you very much. Thanks a million. I'll just share my screen. So thanks, first of all, thanks so much to the TFF team. This is my second time speaking at the conference, and I think it's a brilliant concept, and I'm delighted to be involved. So the title of my presentation, I played around with a few ideas, but yeah, okay, so how to hack a hackathon, or data-viz hackathon hacks. And I'm going to talk as well more generally just about kind of events and meetups. So kind of a few tips. I guess the aim of the presentation is to share some of my own experiences from organizing meetups, events, and specifically some hackathons. And I'm not claiming to have extensive experience here. I've organized a few, and I had never done it previously. So what I'm hoping to share is a few practical tips to anyone who's thinking about organizing one or might have to do it for work at some point in the future. So kind of a practical guide. And I'm planning to speak for about 15 minutes or so. So there should be time for questions at the end if anyone has any. Before we get into the presentation, I'll just introduce myself. So yeah, my name is Louise Shorten, and I work for Perception Consulting. And Perception are a growing analytics consultancy based in Ireland. And we specialize in data analytics and business intelligence solutions. So I'm an analytics consultant, and I'm a certified Tableau trainer and Tableau evangelist, as you can see from my speech bubble. I don't carry it around all the time, but so yeah, I like evangelizing about Tableau, and I'm currently actually on maternity leave. So the majority, I have a 6-month-old, and the majority of my conversations at the moment are with him. So I do apologize if if it takes me a while to construct sentences. Do bear with me, and I'll get there in the end. So I've been feeling a bit starved from the data-viz community of late, which is why I decided to apply to speak. So I'm enjoying kind of getting back into things now. So let's get into the topic of my presentation. So as I mentioned, I've organized a few events, and up until a year and a half ago or so, I'd never organized any in my life. And it's not something that came naturally to me. I would kind of describe myself as more introverted than extroverted. So just the idea of kind of putting myself out there or being a person there welcoming people felt a bit daunting to me. And so I was out of my comfort zone. So I'm hoping my tips will help anyone who might feel the same, or that it should be kind of a practical guide regardless of how you feel about it. And for this presentation, I'm focusing on 2 events that I ran last year, which were Data Plus Women virtual Tableau user, Data Plus Women Tableau user groups, and I collaborated with Viz for Social Good. So first of all, I decided to run with the Data Plus Women theme, because I felt that, you know, in the majority of tech events, the gender balance is often shifted towards more male dominated. So I think it's of value to create these spaces where women kind of have a platform and have opportunities to network, but also the events that I ran were also, you know, were inclusive of all genders, I think. So that was important to mention too when I was organizing them, so that they're inclusive, but with the focus on supporting women. And given that it's International Women's Day today, I'll just wish everyone a happy International Women's Day. So what I had seen a couple of events organised in London by Emily Chen and Sophie Sparks, I think, and Amanda Patist. So I'd seen that they'd done this they'd had organised events, similar events with Data Plus Women and Viz for Social Good. So that's where I got the idea from, and I decided to give it a go. So Viz for Social Good. So I really liked the idea of collaboration with Viz for Social Good because I participated a few times, but not as much as I would have liked. So it was something that I thought I'd like to give some time to. And Viz for Social Good, for anyone not familiar with it, is an initiative that was started by Chloe Zhang in the US. And so she partners with nonprofit organizations who have kind of projects and might have a need, a data requirement. So they have data that they want it analyzed or visualized. So she connects them then with the community of data-viz enthusiasts. And so the data is provided by the nonprofit, and loads of people go off and create visualizations and analysis and share it on Twitter and social media. And then a few of those are selected, and then the nonprofit will use those to raise awareness and help causes across their social media platforms or on their website, etc. So I reached out to Chloe and kind of had a couple of back and forths about maybe organizing a hackathon. And And then it materialized that she was actually going to be in Dublin start of last year. So it kind of all seemed right. And I set a date and at the time when she was going to be in Dublin so that she could speak at it as well. So that was a good start. And then the idea behind the hackathon in this sense is, I guess, that you bring people together in a room so that they can brainstorm together. They have the data and work on a specific project, so kind of the current project that is live, and that then they can, there's an opportunity for peer review, for discussion, for chat, and it gets people engaged. So these are just some of the visualizations I've personally created as part of the project. So I shared on Twitter with the hashtag Viz for Social Good, and it gives you a flavor of some of the topics that can be discussed, can be highlighted. So homelessness, youth unemployment, or human trafficking. So all really, really valuable causes, things to be raising awareness about. And then this is an overview of some of the chapter leaders across 3 regions. So these are all people that are listed on the Viz for Social Good website, which is vizforSocialGood.com, across APAC, EMEA, and North America. So I'm one of the APAC chapter leaders, EMEA chapter leaders, due to the fact that I had just organized the events, a couple of events last year, and I'm hoping to do more in the future. So if anyone's interested in becoming a chapter leader or just finding out more about it, do go to the website, vizforSocialGood.com. And I'll also highlight the current project that's live is the organization is called 360impactdata.org, and they are a kind of a research platform that make gender data freely available. And there's a deadline. The deadline is the 15th of March, just for anyone who'd be interested in finding out more about that. So why would you go to the trouble of organizing an event in the first place? Whether it's a meetup, hackathon, whatever it might be. So personally, I get a lot from going to events, be they conferences or kind of morning, evening, short events. And I tend to really get energized from them. You get to meet like-minded people. You can come away with a new perspective. If you're kind of getting bogged down in your day job, it can really give you some fresh inspiration. Something like a Viz for Social Good hackathon is good because it can raise awareness and get people engaged, make people aware of something they didn't know existed previously or causes. And essentially, they're good ways for people to connect or network. It's also a great way of crystallizing online relationships. So the Tableau community is very active on Twitter, but it can be really valuable then to kind of solidify those connections and meet people in person. So it was great to meet Chloe last year, and also Rebecca Rowland, who's also very active in the Tableau community. I think she's involved in TFF as well, and she actually spoke at the event as well, which was fantastic. So just meeting people in the flesh. Online relationships are so valuable, and connections, and you can get a lot from them. But it can be really powerful to just have people face to face in a room. Companies might also organize a hackathon if it's to solve a business problem. And then I guess, so the thing is, if a meetup doesn't, if you might feel compelled to organize one yourself, if there isn't a meetup for something you're passionate about, whether it's DataViz or Tableau, whatever it may be, if it doesn't exist in your locality, then why not set one up yourself? So this here I'm showing, you can see a picture of a book and a quote, and the person here featured in the book is Grace Hopper, who is a pioneer of computer programming. And the book is called Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. And so I'm reading this at the moment, dipping in and out of it every night with my 3-year-old. And it features 100 extraordinary women with quotes and illustrations. And this is the quote featured here, which is, if it's a good idea, go ahead and do it. Very simple, but this mentality has really resonated with me because it's helping me to push myself outside my comfort zone. Because if you have a good idea, whether it's organizing a meetup or event, or maybe it's just starting a blog, whatever it might be, nobody's going to give you permission to do it, or no one's going to be as into it as you are. So you're not going to have your hand held, so you need to just go and do it. I think it simplifies it nicely. I can be someone who tends to, maybe overthink or be tentative about doing something. So I think this is a great quote. So the question then is how? So as I mentioned, I'd organized a few smaller scale kind of events through work, and at the time, first time I ever did it was a year and a half ago. So I really, I'm new to this. but I had support from colleagues, and for one or two events, we kind of worked with the marketing team in Tableau. But when it came to this idea of a hackathon, this was a first for me, you know, or even kind of running the Data Plus Women. It was all, there was a lot of there was a lot that was new. So I got on my laptop and I did some Googling, and I read a few blogs, as you do, and kind of spoke to some people. And I decided to reach out then to people in the Tableau community who I saw might be able to help me. So I got in touch with Sophie Sparks and Emily Chen, got some great tips. And then, as I mentioned, Chloe was going to be at the event, so I was able to pick her brain. And Rebecca Rowland had some great advice and was going to speak at the event. So it was good to kind of just have people to discuss it with, so that I didn't feel kind of as alone that I was going out and doing this. Thanks so much to the people mentioned here. Also then, in preparation for this presentation, I thought it might be a good idea to reach out to other chapter leaders. So these all, you see here, we've got Chloe saying, and then I decided to contact a number of chapter leaders that I could find on Twitter. So I just reached out to them. I did up a short survey of just 5 questions. I didn't want to be too time consuming, but I thought it'd be really great just to bring some of their insights together, so, and be able to kind of share something that was of value in terms of our collective thoughts on our tips on running a hackathon. So thank you so much to all the people listed here. And so what I've done then is I've kind of taken the survey results from everybody mentioned. I've my own kind of tips and from my own experience, and then the tips that were shared with me before I went on the endeavor, and I've kind of consolidated or summarized it into the laptops approach. So what is the laptops approach? So up first we have location. So that's obviously, you know, location. It's pretty much your kind of starting point when it comes to organizing anything, or, you know, an event, and your venue is critical. And I was lucky enough that I kind of knew Tableau had a space in their offices in Dublin, and I knew, I'd been there before, I knew the size of the room. But I guess that's not always, you're not always going to have an obvious place to go to. And so I guess another option might be your place of work. If it's a big office space, is there a room there that's available? Or you might have been, just from going to other meetups, you might see suitable spaces. So location is critical, and you need to think about whether, if you're going to be catering or providing food, if that's created on site. Then what's important things to consider, I guess, are the size of the room, because that's going to set your, you know, that's going to be your capacity in terms of numbers. And you need to think about then how many people you're actually going to kind of allow accept an invite to the event, because that, when you run free events, it's good to bear in mind that a lot of people, well, you know, a good portion of people won't actually show up. So people that might be enthusiastic, but, you know, when it comes to the day, they haven't paid any money and they're not going to be able to show up. So from my experience, that can be between 40 and 60% of people. So you need to bear that in mind. And then you need to think about just the layout and just make sure, I guess, that the location or the venue is fit for purpose. Then we have agenda. So you need to think about what day of the week you're going to organize it on. One piece of feedback from one of the chapter leaders was that Saturday wasn't good, just as an example. So maybe, I guess, for more professional focused meetups, people might be spending time with family. I think it very much depends on the region. So in Dublin, a lot of the tech events tend to be on Wednesday, Thursday evenings. So that was kind of what I was kind of looking for when I was thinking of setting the date. So once you've thought about what potential days of the week you might organize it on, you need to set a date, and then think about a timeline as well, and how long you're going to allow people to speak, or, you know, if you're going to get speakers, how much time you're going to allot to them. Or are you going to, it's kind of important if you're organizing a hackathon of any description that you're going to give an overview at the start and set up the event for success, and explain and give instructions. So just, I suppose, thinking about the timeline. One piece of advice that I'll share is that, so I ran 2 events last year. The first one, I allowed 60 minutes for a hands-on session, and that felt quite rushed. And at the end, we were kind of running out of time, and I didn't have a chance then. We didn't have time to have anybody kind of stand up and show what they'd share their work with the group, which it can be sometimes challenging to even kind of convince people to get up and share. But there was consensus across the people that I asked that 90 minutes seems to be a good starting point. So that was what I went for on the second run, and I definitely felt like, you know, there was more time. So planning ahead is critical. I would advise that you do as much work as you can in advance. So anything you can kind of do to get prepared. So in terms of, and I would say, don't be afraid to get people on board to help as well, people, your colleagues or friends. It can be good to have people there on the day just as backup, or, you know, to do it in a pair. And think about who's coming if they're going to be beginners. It was great to have some support from colleagues at the time, Emmett and Kayo, so they came along in case there were any, you know, Tableau beginners, and they could kind of maybe pair them up with people who are beginners, could pair up with people more experienced, or else at least you'd have people to help. And then you want to, obviously sponsors is something that you need to think about, whether you can get someone to support with from a financial perspective, and that will be helpful if you're going to be providing refreshments. And also maybe you also need to think about whether you're going to have speakers. You might not have, you know, you might just be keeping it focused on a hackathon or whatever it might be, but if you're, it's good to then engage, you know, think about that early on, get people who are willing to speak. That can be a challenge sometimes. And so it's good to just get some options there. And then we have T for tech checks. That's obviously critical on both kind of in advance and on the day of. So in terms of preparing forward planning, in the case of the data and the DataViz hackathons, if you're going to be providing people with data, you want to make sure that it's clean and prepped, and that people don't have to kind of do work on it before actually kind of starting to visualize and work with each other. So I got a great tip from Emily Chen, which was to do some visualizations myself in advance, which really gets you thinking and you be the expert, so that if people come to you with data questions, that you've already thought about them, and, you know, hopefully, you know, clean up the data sufficiently in advance so that you're prepped. And then just the standard checks, obviously on the day, just make sure that, you know, the screen or projectors are going to work with all the different software, and there are sufficient plug sockets for laptops, kind of practical things if you're running a hackathon. Ordering refreshments. So I guess the bottom line is people love getting free food and drink. So if you want to entice people, it's always good to have some free food and drink. One question for me was whether to provide alcohol or not. So I didn't go with it on the first one, and I decided to then. I think I was being a bit nerdy, thinking it wasn't conducive to productive work. So, but I went with it on the second, and I put this question out to the other chapter leaders as well, and there was kind of a 50-50 split as regards whether you'd serve alcohol. So the jury is out on that one. I'm not sure it's a definite requirement. It might depend on where you are in the world. Promote. So that's the P. Promote. Very important to make sure people know about it and get people to kind of accept, or, you know, once I have used Eventbrite to post the event with a kind of a description, get the agenda there, and then you might want to write a blog to kind of get people interested, and it's just critical, I guess, then to share it on social media so that you can track who's kind of accepted and who's kind of registered to go. Keep an eye on that. And finally, set expectations. This is important to do it at the outset. So through your post of the event, make sure it's clear what people can expect on the day. And then it's always good on the day of at the outset of the start of the meetup, just to kind of give people instructions, and don't be afraid to repeat yourself, because you can find, you know, people haven't taken it all in, or just haven't actually done much in advance, even though you might have asked them to download data or get familiar with the project in advance. It's always good to explain. So that's it, the laptops approach. And finally, it's obviously important that people bring their laptops for a hands-on session. So there's never any harm kind of reminding them, you know, reaching out to them a couple of days in advance of the event. So to sum up, whether you want to become a chapter leader for Viz for Social Good, or organise some other type of meetup, if it's a good idea, go ahead and do it, as Grace Hopper said. It definitely takes effort, I would say, but hopefully you'll feel energized after it and have created something of value to others. So thank you very much. Time is just up. I'll just have a look if I have time, if there are quick questions, but I don't know if there are. There doesn't seem to be any questions in the Q&A, so I think that's my 20 minutes. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Louise. That was great.
Thank you.
We don't have any questions there right now.
Okay.
So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to Louise, then you can contact her on Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah, great stuff. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Bye. So next up, we've got a quick chat with CloudStream and Emily.